Today we're talking about speaking with AI models. How do we speak the right language and how do we actually communicate with them in a way that they'll understand us the best? So if I tell an AI, hello world, how are you today? It's actually going to break that down into tokens, and you can see them colored here where it says hello, and then space world is a token, exclamation mark, and so on. So you can see how that kind of breaks down. And tokens are how AIs communicate with us. The outputs of a AI model when it replies to us is based off of predictions of which tokens make sense. The inputs that an AI gets when we give it data are read as tokens in order for it to be able to understand the context of how things are broken down. And when those tokens don't make sense in a clear, well-defined way, such as typos, how other languages may read Spanish, where you have special characters, these sorts of scenarios often lead to confusion in these models. So let's go into an example of this. Say I've got a series of articles that I want to organize. I want to specifically look at each article, take a look at the summary, and all the articles that have something related to artificial intelligence, I'd like to tag that. And say I've got this big tagging system. It helps me organize articles that I want to read and understand like what's in them even before I start reading them. And I may generate some sort of tag for this, right? So I may have this AI article tag that's 3 tokens long. That's the kind of coding version of it, right? So I've got a bunch of these, got maybe 100 of these different tags. So that could be like the raw token tag. And we can see how it breaks down. When the AI starts to read this, art is a well understood token. The underscore make a match with art somehow. CL also gets used as a token, and AI gets used as a token. But we could understand like where the AI might get confused. Art CL probably isn't used in a lot of different texts. It probably hasn't been trained on something with art CL in it. So we might make this a bit easier. Say we go in and instead we have these sort of like well-read, understood enum values, like you might see in a code base. Now it's like artificial underscore intelligence underscore article. It's a bit better, right? Art still gets pulled out of artificial, but artificial is a common enough word that you probably see that a lot. Underscore int. Int is a coding phrase, so we've broken that as a token before intelligence. And then underscore article actually makes its own token. So there must be maybe that's a common value that often gets seen in text. Again, might be somewhat related to coding. But this token number goes up, right? We were at 3 tokens before. Now we're up to 5 tokens. But still, because even some of the things I'm talking about, like we're talking about an artificial intelligence article tag, we're not talking about coding. And so because these sort of AI models have tokens that are focused to broadly capture a lot of different concepts and ideas so that you can use these AI models in a very general way, we may get the wrong impression, or we may give the wrong impression to the AI as to what this tag means. And finally, when we go actually to normal language, intelligence actually becomes its own entire tag, right? Whereas before we had this underscore with the int, now we have intelligence, and article now becomes just space article, which is probably seen a lot more in context where people are just talking about articles. So you can see that this is probably the most well understood version of these. And we can actually see this a lot in kind of coding examples. So I've got a series of articles I've been doing this on, and the final article that I was looking at was this Simon Wilson article talking about a dataset plugin. You can find the article link here. I'll put it in the show notes as well. In any case, I've got a series of tags that I'm interested in. I've got my important tags, some other tags that kind of relate to other interests. And so we're going to install OpenAI. We're going to create our client. We're going to be able to define a request function here. And then what I want it to do is I want the server to basically act like an expert media analyst working to organize and tag articles. So I'm going to grab that list of tags that we had before. I'm going to output that to it. And you can see that this is what that looks like here with the data. You can see that there's the underscored values, which are the base values that we had up here. And then I'm going to say, cool, only return me tags and format as a markdown code block that just contains the JSON array of tags. Based on the following article summary, which will be included after, which tags make sense to assign to the article. So that defines our server prompt, right? And then the user prompt, which we're going to pass into this request, is going to be effectively this summary of this article, right? So again, just to wrap your head around it a little bit, we're going to request from OpenAI. We're going to use GPT-4. We're going to pass in this sort of server prompt that includes this set of tags that we listed before. We're going to include the summary. And then we're going for a very low temperature lookup here. We just want this to exactly return some of the stuff that we already had. We don't need a lot of creativity in this sort of output, so we're going to do that here. And then I'm going to print the result. And you see for this article, we've got user experience, AI programming, embedded databases, clean code architecture, and productivity tools. And I'll hold on the productivity tools because when we look at the content of this article, nothing in the content of this article should indicate that this is about productivity tooling like Notion or Obsidian or these sort of tooling things that I'm interested in. That tag doesn't actually make any sense. And when we go back through and say we take that and we remove out all the underscores, right? So we take these tags. For each of these, we're going to replace any of the underscores with an empty value and paste those in and use that same article summary. When we remove all those values, we actually get a different set of results here, right? I'll run it again just so you can see. Yeah, we don't get that same productivity tools that we had before. That doesn't exist now down here. And the thing that's interesting about this is that all I changed, the only thing that I changed, and I can produce it consistently, was I removed the underscores. So this is a pretty big deal. The way that we pass data to these AI models is really very much based on how we tokenize, how we think about breaking down these tokens. So if you have a large set of data and you've got all of these enum values or programmatic values or things are structured in these JSON formats, it might make sense to actually, rather than keeping all that formatting that's hard for it to understand, it might make sense to break it down, take that very kind of structured format and turn it into a paragraph, something that's well understood and well documented. And that paragraph may actually be a lot easier for it to understand than a set of values like this or JSON structure. So you may need to do some pre-processing when you're working with tokens. And the final kind of statement here is tokens aren't sexy, but they matter a lot. They're very important to how you build your AI applications. And I think a little bit more time invested here will show amazing results for you and your team. If you liked this video and want to find more, please subscribe. We'll be posting regularly. Or join us on Stable Discussion. This is a blog and a podcast that me and my co-host Della produce on a roughly monthly basis. Please go ahead and follow us there for more. Thanks so much.